Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello. Welcome back
Good
to
to see
another
you.
wonderful episode of Between Two Clinicians. I
I'm
am
going
your host,
for-
Adam
is it-
Luke. Okay,
I am-
Talia, who's doing this? Okay, you told me to do the whole thing, and then you're just talking through.
I totally fucked it up. I literally have not done a proper intro in so long. Start again, and I'm going to shut the fuck up.
No, you're all good. That's going to be our intro because this is actually what we need to talk about. People is
No, that was so bad.
it's okay, but no, it actually is great because this is hysterical. It basically goes hand in hand in what we're about to talk about. Okay, because the topic for today, it is awesome, guys, trust me. We are going to have a conversation about romantic relationships. We've been going all over on other areas, and we thought this would be a good way to bring us back to the center.
Sure.
And so our topic is they're not avoidant, they're just not that into you. And so I think this would be a great example. I know Talia didn't mean it this way, but if you're like, man, I'm sitting at the table and this person won't let me say anything about myself, it might be because they don't want to fucking know anything about you. All right. So this is a great example of sometimes we have to check our own bias of Talia told us before we hopped on, I don't want to do the intro. I'm going to let you do the intro. And then literally as I'm doing it, she's doing the intro. And it's do you actually want the thing you say you want? Because I'm trying to meet your needs here, Talia, in the best way I possibly can. And you're like, no.
Not good enough. Wrongo. I truly, that humbled me very quickly. And because we haven't done it in so long, I lost all practice. So I do want to say thank you for that intro. And I do apologize for messing up the first one. And I'm excited for today's episode. And I'm Talia, and that's the last I will speak in today's episode.
That's just all I have to add. No.
Mm-hmm.
But so maybe you guys are sitting there and you're just trying to conceptualize, what are we talking about when we say they're not being avoidant, they're not into you, they're just not into you. I know I've said it before, I'll say it again. I absolutely love working with my clients that are in the dating scene. I love watching people be able to go out and sort of curate and begin the relationships they say that they want. But this is probably one of those hiccups that pops up quite consistently on people talking about the relationship they want versus the one they're willing to accept. And so I'm going to go two ways on this one. I'm going to start off with my female clients. My female clients, you guys are awesome, but you're also hysterical at the same time because you will overanalyze everything to the 9th degree. So is my gym crush really my gym crush? Is he into me? A lot of times men are pretty simple creatures, and I'm not dismissing us, but if a man doesn't want to talk to you, he just then doesn't talk to you.
It's clearer.
And so sometimes there's not a strategy behind it.
Correct.
There are those hookup masters out there that, again, they might be malicious and they may play some sort of psychological game with you. But for the average person out there in the dating scene, if they're not talking to you, they don't want to talk to you. But if they are talking to you, there's a reason there, right? So what's interesting though is that when someone starts feeling distant, then there's a oh no, that's maybe more of his past emotional wounding, or there's I have to push past it, and it's no, he just is maybe in a spot where he's not even looking for a healthy relationship. And so we're going to move into a process where both of you are going to immediately resent each other after the shine wears off. And so what are we going to do with that?
It reminds me of the phrase, marriage aside, think about dating or partnership, that men marry women hoping they won't change, and women marry men hoping that they will. And to your point, there may be no deep-seated reason that they're doing that, and even if
Mhm.
there is a deep-seated reason they're doing it doesn't matter. Like, the fact that they're doing it is what you need to base the decision off of,
Isn't that
or
the truth?
feelings that they're indecision,
Mhm.
silence, or avoidance, right? Sometimes they are avoidantly attached, and that's why they behave that way. Sometimes they're not avoidantly attached. They're not interested in being pursued by you,
Mm-mm.
whether that's in silent parentheses or out loud, and they've told you, and you're like,
True.
"I don't take no for an answer." It's not a sales call. We're not gonna use
Mm-mm.
overcome objections if somebody is clearly not into you. So being able to differentiate the signs, I think you and I can talk about what actually are signs of avoidant attachment and then what would actually be signs. And I'm curious, to
Mm.
know from your perspective, what would signs be, at least from a dude, and I can talk about it from a girl's
Oh, yeah.
perspective. Like, what would be signs you're actually not into somebody separate from, maybe in addition to, but separate
Yeah.
from avoidant attachment traits? Let's start with avoidant attachment traits. What are your top 3 that you list off for clients?
Mm. So answering this from a male perspective, okay.
I think like a therapist perspective, and then we can talk about the gender dynamic perspective after. How would we classify as a clinically trained therapist, what are the hallmark signs of avoidant attachment traits?
Right off the top is like the isolation and the disappearing. A lot of times we'll hear that socially they'll say like, "Oh, they're ghosting," or
They
another
come
one.
on strong and then they're nowhere to be found.
Mhm. Um, and then another aspect of the avoidance is a lot of times you start to experience like socially acceptable excuses that come
Mm,
in. So the last minute cancellations or the things that look like they're oversights. Oh, I didn't do that thing for you.
mm.
Oh, sorry, work ran
No.
long. There's like all of a sudden we start to recognize, especially it's interesting. I'll see this pop up more like when it's the meet the parents dinner setup,
Oh, if they
right?
even get there, yeah.
Yeah, like either it takes us forever to get any sort of commitment into let's set a date, to then all of a sudden it's like, I got tummy aches.
Friends
And
or
half of the time I want to be like, I think the tummy ache is probably legitimate, but
it's like,
it's a
"Oh, I'm gonna grow
psychosomatic.
again and grow up." Yes,
Yeah,
it is
it's a
psychosomatic.
psychosomatic symptom of like, yeah, you're nervous and
Yeah,
you're there. But
as you should be.
I something that I work a lot with my clients is a lot of times we misattribute nervousness and excitement. Like
Mhm.
both ways you're gonna feel butterflies, stomach
Very
things,
true,
like,
very
there's a
true.
reason why you're looking forward to this,
Yeah.
but here's the part that I wrestle with is I feel like whether it's Hollywood or it's just society, it's the content that we consume, there's actually a prioritization on, like, trying to cultivate avoidant attachment. We like the mysteriousness,
Yeah.
when the mysteriousness is actually, I would think, more malicious of
Mm,
oh, oh yeah, he's so hard to pin down, or she
yeah,
is so hard to pin down
face,
with her
yeah,
patterns, and what are they going to do?
right.
And so we're actually then engaging in like attracting toxic behaviors into our relationships.
If the person has the avoidant traits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if they run if wanting to be or being close makes them and their nervous system be like, "Okay, that was enough, I wanna pull away,"
Yeah.
and that's a gut feeling often that people who
Yep.
are anxiously attached will feel, but also securely attached. So if I am comfortable, so secure attachment as a review, we've talked about it a lot before, is I am equally comfortable, may have a preference for
Mm,
one, but equally comfortable with both closeness and separation. It doesn't make me think anything positive or negative of my partner. If I am close to them, it would be probably lending more towards positive, but I'm not gonna
mhm,
go, "Oh my god, they're never gonna abandon me. I'm obsessed with them." It's not gonna make me have fantasies about them. It's like, "Oh, I like being near you," but also if we're separate or I have my stuff to do and your stuff to do, I'm cool with that too. Avoidant,
yeah.
I'd prefer to not be close, and anxious,
Mhm.
I'd prefer to be wearing your skin on my body like a Snuggie. I wanna be so close.
I
Cuddly.
think you bring up a really good point there, right? The way that I see, and I don't know if other people recognize it this way. Uh, Avoidant attachment is also it's like a tidal wave
Mm,
because as you're explaining it, like, yes, you guys meet in a club or at a bar or some sort of
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Normally, there's like a experience that happens. It's extremely passionate. It's all there, and then poof, this person is gone. Right? Like,
Mhm.
um, and that's why is sometimes I'll wrestle in conceptualization with other clinicians of like avoiding attachment. I feel like is the closest one actually to Peter Pan syndrome. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I don't wanna be
because
I want my freedom, and I don't want
Mhm.
closeness romantically because I'll feel engulfed and like I'm being suffocated or washed away by not maybe where you're going with it, but like a tidal wave. I don't wanna feel that.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
vulnerability, because
I don't
vulnerability can feel crushing.
Oh,
Absolutely. When you're an
yes, yeah,
absolutely individual, like, you're independence, you've got
yeah,
your own thing going, and then all of a sudden, you start thinking about the expectations and the trajectory that you have for yourself, and now you're including another person in those, like, objectively, things have to change. And they're
very
going to change for the better. If you're in a healthy relationship, you're not going to be able to have the same things that you are single, but that's the point.
that is okay, so that's the biggest differentiator I would say that it's important for this episode. When someone has more of the avoidant attachment traits, I want to stay single because the thought of relationship is suffocating versus the
Mhm.
I'm just not that into you specifically is I actually could get behind the idea of a relationship. I'm maybe hoping to not be single anymore, i.e. get into a relationship, but I am wanting to pull away because it's you rather than relationship. So it's the
Mm.
differentiating factor is, no, I want what we're talking about, just not with you, versus with avoidant. It's like, this is so great in theory, but in practice, this is going to suffocate me. So I'll just avoid it at all costs. And it's not
Isn't
to
that
say,
it right there? I
right? Like,
like
yes,
Can I get a subscription service? I would
yes,
love to just be able to tap in and tap
yes,
out, and tap
right?
in, and then tap out.
If you have like if you have a well discussed I guess friends with benefits or hook like if it's a mutually agreed upon system where it's like, look, this is what I'm looking for and what I'm willing to settle for. This is what I'm looking for, I'm willing to settle for
Mm,
stopgap. And that actually can work with somebody who has avoidant attachment, but that's not going to work with somebody who's just not that into you. So people misinterpret,
correct.
oh, well, then they must be avoidantly attached. I read all these books and try. No, like sometimes the cues are, right? I want to make sure we talk
Mm,
about those cues of what is the difference of if I'm not that into you specifically, it might come off like avoidant attachment. I call it like being the
absolutely.
ice queen. And now I'm finally back and being that bitch, which is great. But it's not great for the people who are the recipient of it, but it's great for me because I miss this version of myself. I'm very kind about it, but my
Of
brother is
course.
saying he's like, "You're dating like a dude." Like he saw the messages that I would be sending, or this. Like guys were like, "Well, fun casual dates, like that's a you're gonna get burned out that way, this and that." And I'm like, first of all, I didn't ask for your advice. Second of all, I'm not gonna say I'm looking for a relationship if I'm not. If it turned into that,
Yeah.
great. But I'm not seeking that out right now. I put what I wanted on my profile, and he's like, welcome to being a very attractive dude in your 30s, basically. And I was like,
Yeah.
awesome, I'll take it. So I'm now on like the other side of it where it's not necessarily avoided attachment, but I'm dating and there's people that I'm not that into. And I would be fine if I never saw them again for a second date. So I don't pursue anything further. But if they were to ask, right, we don't leave the first date
Mhm.
planning the second one. If they were to ask, I'd be like, it's not what I'm looking for. I wish you the best, but I'm not being avoidantly attached and like playing a game with them like some of them have thought. It's a wild
Well,
dating
it is a it's
it's so
just
different.
hearing it from my clients, I sit back and I'm like, I turn to my
Bro,
wife
it's
all the
so
time, and I'm
different.
like, "Wear your seatbelt, eat your
Yeah.
greens, do
Yes.
not die on me, because I do
Yep.
not wanna go."
I
Like,
didn't
we had
want to either. Trust me, dating so bad I've reconsidered, which I will not, but I'm like, that's how intense it is. But then I
yeah.
think about it, we have those moments in relationship as well, and I'd rather
Mhm.
be just not that into a person that I'm going on a date with and don't have to stay with than be just not that into the person that I'm supposed to be married to for the rest of my life, right? So,
Well,
like,
yeah.
there's
No,
framework.
I mean, you're doing the right thing in the fact that you didn't settle, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, at the point that you settle, it's game over.
Right.
But so here's the you're bringing up so something that we need to talk
Yeah.
about, which is we have all these like uh, pseudo expectations or pseudo standards
Yeah.
for what dating should or shouldn't be like. So it's
Mhm.
interesting when people are like, "Oh no, I'm dating with intentionality, so other people should be that." Like everyone's so virtue signaling
It's
that it
so
also like you lose out in it. What's funny is that the guys want you to commit to
Mhm.
like, "Hey, I'm looking for a relation." Perfect. It's almost like they feel like that's the car they're trying to sell you, where it's like, "Why don't you actually make her feel safe and secure enough to be like, fuck it, I'm in."
What if I
Right?
just want a second date, right?
Exactly.
Like, what
Well,
if
just
the
treat her
goal
like a gentleman, right? Like that's that like if you could actually show up, this is a sad facts from what I can gather from my clients. If you show up and you're a half decent human being, you're probably getting a second date.
Yeah, all you have to just like I always say this, you have to just like the first date enough for to go like to be able to go on a second date. That's the purpose. The purpose of a
Correct.
first date is to suss out would I like to spend more time with them. If yes, right, do the map. So if yes and there's avoidant attachment, there may be some push pull, but you'll still meet up because they're into you. They're just afraid of the
Yeah.
concept of being tethered down. If they're not that into you, there will likely be no second date. There'll be maybe an
Mhm.
agreement to it on the first date, placating, people pleasing, and then they'll renege, or they will just be a flat out thanks for the evening, I didn't feel what I need to feel for this to continue, this isn't what I'm looking for, I wish you all the best. That's one of the key differentiators of they're just not that into you. And this is where people get tripped up. You probably hear this from your clients too. I could misinterpret
Mhm.
I'm not being followed up with, oh, maybe they're avoidant, I can no,
Correct.
like take it at face value. If the person's not following up to plan more of a second date, even if it was chatted about,
Mhm.
it's safe to say that neither of you are that interested in pursuing it from each other. Don't make it just
Yeah.
about the other person being not that into you. That it's a great movie. He's just not that into you.
Yeah,
So
I
watch
love that
that
one.
for sure and apply it gender neutrally. But there are some warning signs or some, I guess, indicators if a girl is just not that into you. If we talk about not wanting to like have a first date kiss, if our body language isn't facing toward you, I would say some other red flags, well, depending if we're not able to get a word in edgewise or share about ourselves, like a guy could talk about himself for an entire date and leave being like, wow, that was the best date I've been on.
And why? Because you guys got to be their therapist.
Yes.
And they got to lay it all out. Man, this is and it is funny because men do jump into that and it's so cathartic, right? But there's also, I would say, we need to be more diligent with like what we're looking for in the dating
Yeah.
world because men have bought onto this idea of like, okay, so girls enjoy vulnerability. So I'm going to be vulnerable by telling them my whole life story. It's like, no, they're not here for fucking show and tell. All right.
Yeah.
And then
No.
just to go back on the like the whole kissing thing and all that, like again, it's interesting how we always look at things that are symptoms of good compatibility, not symptoms of like, oh, let's make sure we can kiss first.
Right.
Like if you're trust me, if you guys are moving in the right direction, I am thinking you guys are going to come together well. But
Yeah.
the it's a standards thing of like we're being told that like this is what you have to do. I'll never forget a client that I had sat with came out of a long-term relationship. They'd been married for over a decade. She is an incredibly sweet individual, and she's like, "Okay, so sex on the first date." I'm like, well, "I don't know. What is it? What is it? What are your thought process on
Yeah.
this? This is not about me."
Right.
And she's like, "Well, I was told that like that's the only way you can get a second date." And I was like, "So
Oh wow.
let me just share. I think that's
With
someone's
some, that's
strategy."
true with some,
Well,
but
that is so exactly. That's someone else's strategy of getting a second date. That's
what is
not
the date even leaning to is my question.
exactly.
What are we
So, like,
defining
but
as?
this is what people are like,
This is the
we are
advice
s
I'm getting.
we are so a culture of, like, intellectual Tylenol that we're like, "Okay, well, get me to I do one thing, I get one result. I do one thing, I get one result."
Transactional, yeah.
And it's like, "Nah, that's not where it's at." Like, I don't think that you're gonna be fulfilled if you're gonna go into this just because 'cause you're saying, like, "Oh, if I don't, people aren't going to pick me." That feels
They
like
you
such
don't
an
wanna be okay,
extortive.
if the reason why you're being chosen is because you have to have sex with them on the first date to get a second date, I actually don't wanna be chosen by that person. I don't want them
You
to pick
know?
I don't wanna be picked by somebody where that's the picking criteria because that's not the season of my life that I'm in. That is not how I define fun casual dates. With that said, if that is what you're wanting, this is not me saying shame on that. If you're clear about that and it's your strategy personally, that you would like to have that, and you're living by that standard as your
Yep.
own chosen standard, not I think that's what's going to get me liked by another
There
person,
you go.
you can be clear about that. And that can also be differentiated because when people have avoidant attachment, it can come off as hot and heavy in the beginning, almost
Mm,
like love bombing. However, the intent and strategy are different. And if the person's just not that into you, they may be shocking because I'm in the Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook group for like every county ever. And the amount of women who post in that group, well, what about this and what about that? And it's like, this is literally not a mixed signal at all. It's very clear that he has no interest in going out with you again after you slept with him on the first date. That's not a judgment thing, but
nope.
what you were wanting or what you said by downplaying, oh, yeah, I'm cool with that too. I'm not looking for a relationship. Why didn't he know that I
Mm,
really wanted one? Why wouldn't you say that and agree to it? Well, because I knew he wouldn't go out with me. Okay, so whose problem is this? This is now a mutual problem that I'm not clear from the beginning. And somebody who's like, women typically won't sleep with you unless we're into you. Guys will sleep with you even if they're not that into you. As sorry to say it and be blunt, but that is the truth. And you can speak from a guy's
I would
perspective.
say that so yes, there is a high
Some guys,
percentage, but not all.
not
High.
all. No, I'm not saying every guy, but if it were to be somebody, it'd probably be a dude. Not every
Yes.
guy, but a guy. I would, if I were a guy, be like, I would still do that, but I could not be that into them and still be like, oh, that's sex.
Mm,
Women are not as biologically, I would say, hardwired that way, simply from evolutionary psychology. The risk to us of a pregnancy taking us out of the dating market or off the field for a year pretty much is not worth it. It's not hitting
18
our worth it
years. Yeah.
factor, right? Or longer if some, obviously, but like
Yeah.
at least the immediacy, we hold more of the risk. So if I'm not that into you, I'm not going to risk that. Whereas a guy could be like, well, she has boobs, so I may as well. I'm not saying every guy is like this
Let me
Cro-Magnon.
see if this will be an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want
Like,
to put it that way. But out of, if I had to choose, I would say men would be more likely to be like, I would still hit it even if I wasn't that into her. Versus, I've never heard a girl. First of all, we don't speak like that really, but I've never heard a girl be like, oh yeah, I hate his gut, unless we're already in a toxic
of
relationship.
course.
But this is like just a first date,
This is yeah.
unless it's like you said, the strategy to try to
Or
get them to like you. That's a deeper thing that needs to be treated in therapy. If you're getting people you don't want to like you by sleeping with them even though you don't want to, that needs a separate treatment plan.
well, yeah, there's no gold star for going on dates with people that at the end were never going to be sustainable partners to begin with.
So
So like
and
so like
sometimes you don't know till the end of the date, but that's the point of
true.
going on just a date. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewireyourrelationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
That first date, I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to try to get to the second date or
Yeah.
best the negative narrative of like, oh, I'm unlovable. So we're trying to
Uh,
find ways.
to prove you're
But
not.
I
I
think
see.
you have to check it a little bit of saying like the first date should actually be a tremendous amount of fun. Like you
I
should
agree.
walk away feeling like empowered and like experiencing a little bit of joy and going, wow,
Yes.
I could
Joy.
I could actually sit with that person. I think it's interesting that we will actually try to start relationships void of joy and levity and then try to add those in later.
Well, I
Like
just need a partner, right? It's like
exactly.
going on a roller coaster
But you
and
know
you're the
what?
odd man out and they just match you with somebody so they can have an even weight distribution, but that's the only time you're gonna see that person is just for that one ride, and for the only purpose of making everybody else happy, which is a lot of why people get in a relationship. It's the societal pressure. Some people don't want it. It's the
So
societal
I
pressure.
was on an airplane this last week, and I was
Oh
sitting
boy.
next to a person. I'm sitting there reading a book, and this guy looks over and goes, "Why the hell would you be reading that book?" It was a book on relationships,
Oh
and I
boy.
said, "Oh, I'm a therapist," and he was like, "Oh," and so we started chatting it up, right? And
Oh boy.
something that we came to in this conversation was he was he asked me, he goes, "What do you think? Like, who do you work with?" And I said, "Okay, well, I work with a lot of CEOs." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I am one." He's like, "What do you think is like one of the biggest faults that we have as CEOs?" And I was like, "Well,
Mhm.
that's a big freaking list. Let me whittle this one down." I said, "You
Yeah.
know what? How about I just pull away from CEOs and I just talk about like high impact,
People,
high
yeah, high
performance individuals?"
achieving.
I said, something that I think that we completely have a blind spot for is I don't believe that there is any more important question to be asked uh, in solving the problem of who your partner is. We
Yeah.
always think about who, like, what we're going to do, what trajectories we're on, how much money we got in the bank. We're always looking at all these other opportunities, and I don't think there's enough weight brought to the power of your partner. Like,
Mhm.
I don't care how good you are at what you do, if you leave and cleave with the wrong person, inevitably you're going to miss the trajectory you had for yourself in life.
Oh, yeah, being with the right person is an amplifier, and to your
So
point, with
exactly.
not the right person can be a real downer.
Yeah,
You think about
absolutely.
it just like an albatross,
But
yeah.
we don't think about that at the first date. There's
Not
all
enough
this other
people, yes, correct. Not enough
correct.
people
We
do.
think about all this other bullshit that doesn't matter. Like, ooh, is he a good kisser? Or do we have physical intimacy compatibility?
We have the same
If
music
if
taste.
you've got the parts,
Liking
it's
the same
gonna work.
styles. Yeah, I yes. If your goal, okay, so if your goal for dating is to eventually be in a relationship, like if your goal for going to the market is to find somebody to go take off the market and you don't want to be shopping at the market every week anymore, then yes, especially on first dates, looking for those signs of more secure attachment traits and emotional availability are going to be so helpful. If you're just dating, not knowing what you're open to, those are still traits to be looking for because I want somebody who I could see the potential of it going somewhere with. Most people, even if they're not hell bent on, I want the next person I date to be the last one, which is already an unhealthy mindset because it can create a
Oh,
force.
yeah.
I
It's a
have to make it work.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, it has to be, like, looking for traits of emotional availability. Even if the
Mm,
person's fine keeping it with fun, casual dates, I would like to have joy. If I bring up something that stresses me out, even just at work that
yeah.
week, are you gonna be there of like, "Oh gosh, that's so tough," and we're not talking
Mm,
about avoidant attachment, using it as an excuse. I actually, let's say, do wanna go on a second or third date, but the person's travel schedule is crazy or they had a rough day at work. You and I know how that feels.
mm,
Some days I'm like, I actually thought I had energy and I got hit with so much shit at work. I'm out, like, I can't
mm.
handle that. Can the person be emotionally attuned and available enough to go, "I get it. I want me at my best version too. Why don't we reschedule?" Versus going, "Oh, thank God I didn't wanna see you either," or going, "Oh, really, you can't?" I remember years ago in grad
Oh,
school,
yeah.
I think I saw 8 clients back to back the day before Thanksgiving break,
Mm,
which was a lot, and it was a high acuity caseload, and I remember having a date set up, and I was so
mm,
song, I can still feel the, like, void in my forehead because I couldn't even listen to the radio on the way to wherever restaurant we were meeting, and I was slowly, like, warming up as the date went on, and by the time it was like a double date with the roommate, whatever. We got back to the guy's house and I was like leaning next to him on the couch while we were watching this like projector movie. And he was like, "Oh, there you are. Where have you been all night?" And I literally was about to snap and I turned to him. I said, "So we're not doing that because I told you I had a rough day and you haven't been supportive at all this whole evening. And I'm not going to get shit for it now." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, and a matter of fact, and it was obviously our last date, but it was a key sign
oh,
of
yeah.
having insecurities. I'm not going to diagnose an attachment style. I was more avoidant at that point. But even if I weren't, I was
Mhm.
having an off day and I would
Oh,
want the
yeah.
support. So, to your point, too, picking the right person who can be supportive through all the seasons and
Mm,
actual long term relationship needs is so
yep.
key. And that starts in the beginning of, is this person avoidant? And do I want to partner with someone?
Mm,
More anxious people than secure will do that. Or are they just not that into me and I'm misreading all of these signals? Because if I'm just not that into a person, why would I want to spend the rest of my life with them? I've not read one R story page that was like, I hated them at first and they were terrible and I wanted to swipe left if I met them in person, but I felt like the dating pool was closing in on me. And the closer I got to 35, I had to have kids. So here we are. Like, I've never read one like that.
That's a love novel that comes with a razor blade. Like that, like,
That's like the big reason
it's
why
not
I
gonna
don't,
leave you
yeah,
feeling good.
no,
And
and not
and
part,
but to your point, I loved your marketing, or your, I'm sorry,
yeah,
going to the market
yeah,
metaphor. I
yeah.
loved that because I'm not against it at all. If you want to go out and like find out what flavor
Enjoy
of
the
ice cream
farmer's
you want,
market. Go for as
go
many
for it.
weekends as you want. I love it.
But the difference is, if I'm noticing that the mushrooms are bad, I
Yeah.
don't need to try the mushrooms,
Or buy
right?
them
Like,
every week hoping I'm gonna learn
exactly,
to like mushrooms.
that's it.
Exactly.
Like, if you're truly I love when I'm working with individuals in the dating pool and they're saying this is something they really wanna work on. What I love doing is, like, I know that love doesn't work on, like, 60, 90, 180 days, but I think it's just good for us 'cause, human beings to set,
Right.
like, how long are you gonna try out the dating pool? Like,
Totally.
because people will always say like, "Oh, I just wanna try it for a while." Perfect.
Great.
What's a while gonna be?
Yeah.
Let's just throw it out there. "Oh,
Yeah.
well, why?" It's not that I'm trying to lock you down, but I think you're going to do better with knowing what the distance in the runway is versus
Yes.
saying, "Well, I tried this for a while, and then I woke up 5 years later and was like, what the hell did I
It's
do with
having a
myself?"
SMART goal, right? Specific,
Exactly.
measurable, achievable, realistic, and time oriented. I
Yeah.
think that is some of the best. And as somebody who's dating, obviously I've been on and off in and out of the dating pool, so to speak, since I've been single. Not right after, but for when I got my sanity back right after, feeling like, okay, I kind of want to try this. I would like to
Yeah.
be, that was my goal, right? What was my goal was to be taken out for a nice dinner, told that I'm pretty, and maybe make out at the end of it. That was my whole goal in the beginning of dating. And I achieved that very quickly with somebody I liked. And I'm like, okay, this isn't as terrible as I thought. Dated a few more
Mm,
people. Life happened, pulled back from the dating scene because it wasn't the right season for anyone involved. Got back in recently, was underwhelmed, met a great person, still back on the market. There's now this balance of what's realistic and what are the purposes of what, like the app or meeting in person. I'm hoping, because I have weddings and other events coming up, my hope is to meet someone in person at one of these events who's already kind of vetted through a mutual friend, so my likelihood of
yep.
being more into them would be higher because we have commonalities kind of already sussed out, versus on an app, this that crux of
Mhm.
they're likely avoidant and I'm just not that into them. Because I saw a meme the other day that was like, when you meet on an app, you're matching with people you never should have met with in real life. And I was like,
Agreed.
wow, that is actually really true. And ironically, the first time I ever saw my ex, I think he knows this story. He doesn't even listen to this, but years ago, full beard in one of the pictures, and I swipe left. I was like, I hate facial hair. Absolutely not. Obviously, you're my co-host, so this is fine. And your beard looks nice. I can appreciate it objectively, just not for me personally. The next time I did that like Hinge rematch, whatever shuffle up thing, or I like deleted it or went premium. I don't know. The next picture I saw, he did not have that at all. He like had updated, or Hinge chose a different one. Swiped right, and I say
Interesting.
that meme is true. We probably never should have met in person. We probably like the
Uh,
delusion though of what could have been when the fantasy and projection was real versus when life got real. And I'm honest about
mm,
this, too. There were some traits, not that he wasn't into me, but there were some traits where I'm like, this is avoidant attachment at play, but I was so in the thick of my career and it
yeah.
met enough of my needs. That's what I was looking for at the time. And that
Oh,
would
man.
have actually been just at that level for those purposes sustainable.
Mm,
It wasn't sustainable when more real life shit was piled on, or I scooped in or he
of
scooped
course.
in. And there's also something to be said for, you can be really into a person or date somebody with avoidant
Yep.
attachment at certain levels of intensity, and it actually works out. Maybe that just not that into you, but like I
Yeah.
can be into you enough to go on a date, but I might not want to have a kid with you. I can be into you enough to go
Correct.
on a weekend getaway, but I couldn't travel for Europe for 6 weeks with you, right? Like there's
Mm,
levels of intensity where, as long as let's say you actually do have a crush and you're into them, I might not want it to go anywhere because I could never get along with your family or this or that, but we have fun going to concerts and dinners. I'm not going to try
yeah.
and upgrade somebody where I know, right? They're
Yep.
just like every other weekend. hangout person, I'm not going to try and upgrade them to I want to spend
Mm,
the rest of my life with you. And that's where a lot of people also get tripped up. I could be into you for certain seasons or certain reasons. And if I'm not honest about that,
mm,
going to lie to both of us, or you're going to pitch me something, and because I don't want to lose out on this, I'll agree to this, but I really never wanted to give you this other thing. And that can be avoidant, or the I'm just not that into you, but I'd be into being into you, and so I'll agree to other things
I love
until
that.
I get that, and then it's like, oh wait, you don't want to marry me. Like, there are warning signs from avoidant attachment in the beginning.
Absolutely. Well, but a lot of times we think we can love people past their
Oh,
intentions.
and
We actually don't.
yes, I talked about this with my, colleague, I will leave it general, this morning, and actually, this is very on brand with what we talked about. So this is what I sent. You can let me know if you agree or not, because we're both moms. And she had said, the whole kids take their frustration out on you because you're safe thing really is true. And I said, I finally get why so
Mm,
many women feel like they have to stay in relationships when it's really hard. We're conditioned to think love means sticking it out no matter what. I think it comes from how we love our kids. We take anything they throw at us because that's part of helping them feel
mm,
safe and learn boundaries. But somewhere along the way, we started applying that same unconditional love to adult relationships. But it's not like adult romantic love should have
yeah.
conditions, is my motto. When it's with kids, it's appropriate, but when it's with partners, it's not, because love between adults should feel safe
Mm,
and mutual, not something we have to survive everything that's thrown at us. And that is
is
that
that the truth?
differentiating factor also, is being able to say, like, I don't want this. Like, even though I
Mm,
want certain parts of this, I'm just not that into these traits that you have. And that alone can be enough to say, I don't want what we have
yeah.
anymore, or I want to downgrade it, or I'm happy sticking with it here, but I don't want to make an upgrade. And if
Mm,
on differing ideas of I'm just not that into pursuing more with you, we have to be honest about that from the beginning. And we also have to be honest about the avoidant attachment. Most people don't know it though, because they're avoidant, and anxious is the more likely one to self report to therapy,
mm,
because it's untenable. It feels like no one's ever going to love me the
true.
way I want to be loved. No, I just might be picking people who don't want to give to anyone. And it's not personal to me at all, but I attribute it to be personal. Like you said earlier,
Mhm.
I'm unlovable. No, you're just maybe not seeking out the
And it just
people who love
always
you the way you
it
want.
seems. I know we're not supposed to use the word
Yeah.
always, but it does seem like
Yeah.
there's this high correlation of like something that I'm like leaning into is I have a colleague who's Japanese, and she has started to share with me like culturally how they view relationships. And in some context, I'm going to butcher this because it's not my culture, but the takeaway I got it was that they see relationships as a battery. There's negatives and positives, and there's flow,
I like
right?
it.
What's interesting is that when you look at anxious attachment and avoidant attachment,
Right.
they're like a toxic battery, right?
Oh,
So
sure.
like,
Oh, yeah.
and that's why they fall into they like each other. Why? Because they like each other for the worst parts of this thing.
Oh, the toxic.
The
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you look at like the anxious attachment goes, wow, like when you do connect with me, it's this jolt, it's all this
Mhm.
energy, it feels
Yep.
so euphoric. Then all
Yep.
of a sudden you're gone, right? And the gone part is where the avoidant person steps in and is like, oh, that feels good, right? I can go have this experience
I
and I
could
can pop
breathe and
back.
get space. Yes.
And so like you're watching them go through this battery, and the more that I've sort of been like, okay, so this makes sense how like it kind of even matches in with imago therapy, where it's
Mhm.
like if you look at these attachment styles, a lot of times we will go to that mirrored other style is what we're actually seeking. And
Yeah.
that's where we have to truly ask ourselves, what do I actually want? I
Yeah.
love to ask my clients, let's paint a picture of the person you want to have a relationship with. And it's fine, even if you say it's a casual relationship, we should
Sure.
still have an understanding
Yes.
because it's still someone, it's not anyone. That's what we really need to move
I
away from. Is it
totally agree.
cannot be anyone. It has to be something that's definable for us. Because I feel like that's when we wake up days, years, whatever down the road and going, oh, wait a second. I didn't even follow what I said I was going. I said I wanted a casual relationship, but then I went straight into a committed relationship with
Mhm.
someone who actually doesn't meet my standards at all, but happened to be available.
Mhm.
We are not looking for warm bodies. Don't don't
Yeah.
fall into that trap.
No, and if that happens to be what you are looking for, you're probably not gonna be first of all, you're not gonna listen to a dating relationship advice podcast because you don't need help in that department. Because your goal isn't, "I need to like
Mm,
a person who is housed in the warm body," like the personality. I'm just looking for parts, which if that's
yeah.
the case, that's fine, but when you're to your point, when you're looking for this ideal or realistic, let's look what traits are you looking for, not losing hope on that and
Mm,
settling because other people around you or telling you some story. Well, I met so and so at
yeah.
this, and I had to sacrifice 900 things, but here we are 20 years later. I was talking to my friend, my other podcast I used to do, Ryan. I met up with him this weekend and we were talking a lot of stuff, but I was saying to him about the podcast, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one episode we did on," essentially alluding to how a lot of marriages end up
Yeah.
sticking together because it, not that it's healthier for the kids, but it's easier to be like, "Look, we're in this for the kids. We can tolerate each other. We get to hook up when it's convenient." They're not saying it's like the healthiest. If they were to be
No.
single and choose again, they wouldn't choose what they ended up with. But the
True.
thought of the alternative is like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that either. And being married to somebody who you're
Mm,
not thoroughly overjoyed, or there's a lot of problems that aren't getting addressed, is in a different direction just as hard as dating. Like I would 10 times take the frustrations I have with dating over being in an abusive
oh,
relationship.
absolutely.
Like this isn't great, but I at least am not having to like send paragraphs to a grown man
Mm,
asking him to meet my wants and needs. And you know me, very
agreed.
and assertively, and it being like, I just don't know what you want from me, or weaponized incompetence. Well, I thought about trying. Wow.
That is, I
Yeah.
love that one. I
Like that's,
thought about
I,
trying.
I,
And
you
then
know,
what was your thought?
I was going to,
Didn't
and
want
then I
to?
didn't, but I'm not getting credit for the fact that I was going to. I'll never forget, and I know we have to wrap up in a few minutes, but I'll never forget planning my whole baby moon, the redo baby
Oh,
moon, the first one
that's
we planned.
that had to be wonderful.
That was also my 30th birthday. That was fun. My whole trip, I'm planning it, and he's like in the couples therapist office. It's a big milestone, okay? And we're in the couples therapist office, and it's birthday baby moon combo. And I was like, I don't want to be the one. I had to do all the groceries, this, that, not to mention
Yeah.
shit that happened right before we left. And he was like, well, I was just gonna wake up the next day and get stuff before we left for the trip. And I said, great, you never shared that with me. And Trader Joe's, the store that or whatever artisan store, only Trader Joe's was open. The other wine shop
Mm,
something wasn't open that had the alcohol-free wine I wanted, because again, I was pregnant, I couldn't drink.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's the level of thoughtfulness I put into me, that I've told you I want you to put into me, that I've demonstrated and explicitly listed on paper in this fucking office that I want. And you're like, no, not going to give it to you. Right. Like that's that piece of, find a partner who, even if they don't know what you want, if you tell them, are they willing to meet it? That's, I think, one
Mm,
of the biggest keys. Not everybody is going to know exactly how you want to be loved. Hell, you might not even know how you want to be loved. If you know, or when you find out and you tell the person you're with, can they and are they willing? That's why willingness is the number one trait I recommend. Are they willing to try to love you in terms of like, I
mm,
want to do this. You're telling me this, give me practice. Like, I'm not going to be an expert the first time. Are they willing to meet your needs and love you the way that you're saying that you want to be loved? If they're not willing at all, then if you stick around hoping, that's when you're wasting your time.
mhm,
But letting the person have 6 months to a year, as long as there's no obvious red flags, learning your language, right? Getting adjusted. I'm sure you and Jill had to do that
mm,
as well. That's the
yes.
worthwhile investment. That's how you know someone's into you, right? Sign someone's
Mm,
into you. For the contrary, they are willing to put in the work. They are willing to meet your needs. They're willing to apologize. They're willing to take a look at themselves and go, you're right. I dropped the ball on that. How can I make it better? Not, I'm sorry if, already a shitty apology, right? There's so many delineating factors of when somebody is into
sorry,
you.
meet my
Yeah.
rationalization, right?
I'm sorry if you were hurt by that thing I may or may not have done. No accountability. Accountability is a green flag. No accountability, huge red flag that you should not be into that person. So basically, whatever toxic shit, this is my closing note, whatever toxic shit that you find attractive in the auditioning for love category of
Mhm.
next episode is it avoidant attachment, or are they just not that into me? Whenever you find that, try to be disgusted by it instead of try to figure it out and solve it as a problem. So we gotta work away from that toxicity and work
Mhm.
more towards, I would never want whatever, my little sister, my brother, my mom, I would never want someone I love, including myself, to go through this. So I'm not going to participate anymore. I'm just not that into that anymore. That's where you can put your foot down. That's my closing note.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to back up, and I'm seeing how it doesn't necessarily tie directly into how we started it, but I think that more people also need to increase the awareness that difficulty in a relationship, or I should say not difficulty. This is the part that we're unwilling to sit with, is discomfort is not the indication of whether a relationship is going to be successful or not. And what I mean by that
Yes.
is that a lot of times we talk about how easy it's supposed to be. And we move into this like, oh, well, it should actually have a level of conflict present between two individuals deciding to do a relationship together,
Yeah.
right? If we are constantly sitting and experiencing, oh, when difficulty in my relationships arise, I disappear,
Yeah.
it helps me believe that you're probably avoidant.
Yep.
There's also anxious attachment can pop into there as well. Um, and we need to start checking that of like, if that's always going to be sort of that master alarm that you use to hit the parachute, then I think you're going to walk into having most of your relationships actually be quite discouraging or frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
So, the reason why I bring that up is like if you can feel that the relationship is getting to a difficult spot and the other person is disappearing, or they're using it as a strategy of like when things get hard, they aren't around. Again, they're communicating to you even if they're not saying what you want, right? I truly believe I've sat in couples sessions where I've heard people tell their significant
Yeah.
other or whatever, "Oh, I want to have this relationship with you. I want to go through the struggles." And then when the struggles present themselves, they're nowhere to be found. I
Yeah.
think it's because sometimes people have a really difficult time telling themselves the truth, which
Yep.
is, I actually don't want this,
Yeah.
but I am unwilling to be the villain in the story. I don't want to break up with you. I want time to break us up. I want us to let
Mhm.
a resentment break us up. I want
Yes.
us to start hating each other mutually, and then it just seems a lot more agreeable.
And then you'll be both avoidantly attached and just not that into the person.
Exactly.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Don't start something with somebody who's not into you or is not treating their avoidant attachment. And don't stay in a relationship so long where it devolves to they're just not that into you, because I can tell you from personal experience, it fucking sucks. It sucks to stay past the story arc where you're like, wow, you like probably hate me at this point. And it's just not
Mm,
worth it to be with somebody who doesn't love you the way that you want to be loved, or at minimum in the beginning, care for you the way that you want to and are deserving of being cared for. So with that, I
mic
need to
drop.
go to my own personal therapy to talk more about my own patterns, which never a dull moment on my end. So I'm going to jump
Absolutely.
off for that, and we if you are still here in 2 weeks, we will see you for our next episode.
You guys have a wonderful week.
And don't be avoidant. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.